Some houses have secrets buried deeper than their foundations. This is the story of Ethan Weller, a man who moved into a quiet home looking for peace, but found something else entirely. What he discovered in the basement wasn't just strange, it was ancient, and it was never meant to be found. The new home. Ethan Weller had always wanted a quiet place to start over. After his divorce, he found a modest house just outside the city, old, charming, and surprisingly affordable. It sat on a tree-lined street where the neighbors kept to themselves, and the silence at night was exactly what Ethan thought he needed. The house, built in the 1940s, creaked with every step, its wooden floors echoing memories of the past. It had character, as the realtor said. A little wear and tear, but nothing alarming. In the back corner of the house was a narrow staircase leading to a small basement. When Ethan first visited, the realtor mentioned it briefly. Just a storage space, nothing much down there. It was dim, cool, and mostly empty, aside from a few old boxes and the overwhelming smell of dust and earth. But there was something strange about how quickly the topic changed when the basement came up. Ethan brushed it off at the time. After all, what could possibly be down there? The door that was bolted shut. The basement was unremarkable at first, just cracked concrete floors and cobweb-covered corners. But tucked behind an old wooden shelf, half concealed in shadow, was something that immediately struck Ethan as out of place. A heavy, rusted metal door. It was solid, industrial, and most bizarrely secured with 4 thick steel latches. It didn't look like anything meant for a house. It looked like something meant to keep something in or out. Ethan tugged on the latches, but they wouldn't budge. They were old, but clearly built to last. He wondered briefly if it led to an old storm bunker or maybe some kind of forgotten storage space. The realtor hadn't mentioned a second room. Still, Ethan was intrigued. He left it alone for the moment, deciding it wasn't worth the hassle. But that night, lying in bed above it, he thought he heard something. A dull, faint, knocking sound. Software rhythmic. Tap, tap, tap. When he opened the basement door the next morning, everything was silent. Something beneath. The knocking returned the next night. 3 sharp taps, always around the same time, just after midnight. Ethan stood at the top of the basement stairs, listening, heart racing. It wasn't the creaking of old wood or the scurrying of mice. It was deliberate. It had a pattern. He descended slowly, flashlight in hand, stopping just a few feet from the metal door. He pressed his ear against the cold surface. At first, nothing. Then, a sound so faint he wasn't sure if he imagined it. A breath, long, raspy, as if something was on the other side, waiting or watching. Ethan jumped back, flashlight shaking in his hand. A chill swept through the room. There was no logical explanation, but he couldn't deny what he'd heard. He stood in silence for several minutes, expecting something to follow. Nothing came, but the feeling lingered. The air felt heavier, denser. Something wasn't right. He went back upstairs, locking the door behind him. Sleep didn't come easy that night. The first opening. Ethan tried to ignore the basement for the next 2 days. He stayed upstairs, kept the door locked, even left the house for long walks just to avoid thinking about it. But the sound returned. All was the same. 3 slow knocks, like a reminder, like an invitation. Curiosity soon overtook fear. By the 3rd night, Ethan was ready. He brought down a toolbox, gloves, and a crowbar. Each latch groaned as he forced it open. The final one gave way with a loud metallic snap. The door creaked slowly outward, revealing not another room, but a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Dust swirled in the beam of his flashlight, and the air that wafted up was damp, stale, and ice-cold. Ethan hesitated. Every instinct screamed at him to stop, to shut the door and walk away. But something deeper, something primal, pulled him forward. One step at a time, he descended. The humming began 3 steps down. A low, steady vibration that seemed to come from beneath the ground itself. The room that shouldn't exist. At the bottom of the stairs, the air felt different, thicker, harder to breathe. The flashlight flickered as Ethan stepped into a space that shouldn't have existed. It wasn't part of the original basement. It was deeper, older, and carved directly into the stone beneath the house. The walls were covered in strange markings, symbols etched deep, arranged in circles, spirals, and chaotic lines that made his eyes ache if he looked too long. At the center of the room sat a large stone chair, worn and cracked, with leather restraints bolted to the arms and legs. It looked ancient, ritualistic. A thin layer of dust coated everything, but it didn't feel abandoned. It felt paused. Near the base of the chair lay an object, a book, torn and stained, a journal. Ethan picked it up carefully, brushing off the dirt. The cover was scorched, the pages warped. Inside were frantic writings, pages filled with desperate, almost manic entries. The name scrawled on the inside cover stopped Ethan cold. Henry Black. The Journal of Henry Black. The journal entries were dated from nearly 30 years ago. They started calm, normal, talks about house renovations, the odd creaks in the night, complaints about the cold seeping through the floors. But slowly, the tone shifted. Henry wrote about hearing whispers in the walls, dreams that bled into waking life, and something he called the thing beneath. He wrote about how it spoke to him, how it asked to be fed. At first, it was animals, rabbits, squirrels, even strays. Then the entries became darker, fragmented, paranoid. He claimed he had no choice, that if he didn't keep feeding it, it would come upstairs, take the house, take him. The last few pages were nearly unreadable, written in smears of ink and something that looked like blood. One line was underlined repeatedly, "Do not open the door, ever dot." The final page was short, shaky handwriting, just a single sentence. If you're reading this, it's already too late. The disappearance of Ethan Weller. 3 days after Ethan opened the door, his neighbor noticed the mailbox overflowing and the porch light still on. Concerned, they called the police. When officers arrived, they found the front door unlocked. The house was quiet, too quiet. Upstairs, everything seemed untouched. No signs of struggle. But the basement door was wide open. They descended carefully. The flashlight beams swept across the concrete floor, then froze. A trail of muddy footprints barefoot led to the second metal door. It was shut, and all 4 latches were locked from the inside. Ethan was never found. The investigation turned up nothing but that strange sealed door. The official report stated no evidence of foul play, and the case went cold. The house was sold again, cheaply. The new owners sealed the basement and never spoke of it. But sometimes, just after midnight, neighbors say they still hear something tap, tap, tap from beneath the ground. Ethan Weller vanished without a trace. The basement door remains sealed, but the knocking hasn't stopped. Maybe it never will. Some mysteries are meant to stay buried. So, if you ever hear something tapping from beneath your home, don't answer. Some doors once opened can never be closed again.